While most of the NBA offseason trade rumors are circled around Giannis Antetokounmpo and what's going to happen in that field, it seems like teams are starting to circle the next name, and that is Ja Morant, as reports that the Pelicans and the Timberwolves both are engaging interest in the possibility of trading for the former star point guard. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, we got the Lakers trying to build an offensive identity around Luka Doncic and Austin Reaves by potentially targeting Lu Dort, Mitchell Robinson, and Robert Williams. We'll talk about some serious names and how they can add those guys. And the Phoenix Suns just gave a contract extension to Gillespie, and now the question becomes about, can they keep Mark Williams, or what's going to happen on that front as he enters restricted free agency? We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball and NBA related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go get into this content for today, y'all. And Ja Morant is a name that started. Now, we have heard that a team like the Miami Heat have Ja Morant penciled in as their backup plan if they strike out on Giannis Antetokounmpo. We also heard that that prior interest from the Minnesota Timberwolves in regards to that, another team that had some interest in Giannis Antetokounmpo. But this one comes from Sam Amick of The Athletic that said this: New Orleans Pelicans and the Minnesota Timberwolves both have interest in trading for Memphis Grizzlies point guard Ja Morant. The Grizzlies tried to trade Morant ahead of the last season's trade deadline, but were unable to complete a deal. It's been expected since then that Memphis would re-engage teams in trade talks this offseason. Minnesota has been connected to Morant since last year. However, given Morant's large salary, it may be hard for them to complete a deal. The Pelicans would have to like to move veteran point guard Dejounte Murray in a deal for Morant. New Orleans also has Jeremiah Fears, who they drafted last year in the first round, on the roster. Now, Ja Morant does make $42.4 million this season and $44.8 million next season. So this is something that's interesting to watch, right? So let's talk about both sides of this argument on the Timberwolves and the Pelicans and why they both should be interested or not in Ja Morant. Now, if you guys are new to the channel, the way that we discuss things here is that we talk about both sides of any argument. Because I'm a solo content creator, it keeps me honest on talking about all things and it not just become an echo chamber, which I do think some solo hosted shows become, right? So Ja Morant, is Ja Morant the best move for the Pelicans? Let's talk about the yes side of this first. That's where I want to focus on. Ja Morant will give the Pelicans an explosive, potentially, player, somebody who can put pressure on the rim, all that type of stuff. New Orleans has always been a team that's had a lot of talent, but has never really won a lot because of that talent. You look at Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, of course, Zion Williamson when he's there, even Dejounte Murray, who's dealt with some injuries, but he's been able to put up some solid numbers. Jeremiah Fears, Derek Queen, like they got some talent down there, but they've never been able to take that next step forward as a team consistently. They've got to the playoffs before, but didn't really make it far. The thing is that if the Pelicans still believe in Zion Williamson as the franchise centerpiece, pairing him with a player like Ja Morant could create some major athleticism all up and down that roster. Now, we have heard as well that they could be looking to trade off Trey Murphy depending on if the price is there. And so it's some questions there, right, on the fit. But, you know, if you are truly making a move to be more competitive, adding Ja Morant to Zion and the players that you have there could make some sense. But the side of no, let's talk about the risk here. The fit is very risky. Ja Morant needs the ball. Zion needs space to really be the best version of himself. And with Dejounte Murray already on the roster, even if you want to move off of him, you can find a piece that maybe fits that a little bit more. I also think that Jeremiah Fears is a player that was just drafted in the first round last year, you know, is a player that you really want to invest in his development and to continue to see what he can turn out to be. Now, the chances of him being as good as Ja Morant at his heights, I mean, it depends on how you bet on that. I'm never going to put a cap on a player that young that was drafted that high. Like, we know that Jeremiah Fears has some serious potential. That's why the Pelicans did draft him at number 7 overall. He was a top 10 pick. In his rookie year, averaged 14 points, 3.7 rebounds, 3.4 assists on 43% shooting from the field and 33% shooting from three. And, you know, you want to invest in a player like that who's only 19 years old. But one could say it's 2 years of Ja Morant for sure under the contract that he has. And you never know, by then, maybe you feel a little bit different about Jeremiah Fears to where you can move off of it or something else. You never know. So that's the side of the no of it when it comes, when you look at it. You just got to see what the Pelicans are going to do. I think this, though. The Pelicans could find themselves falling in a trap a lot of teams fall for, where they chase value in the name and overlook the fit of the roster and the place of the rosters you still need structure. And with Ja Morant making $42 million and $44 million over the next 2 years, and the health concerns, even a little bit of slide that he's had shooting stuff-wise, there's a question. So what are the Pelicans trying to build? That's the first question that they have to ask here, and then ask themselves, would chasing Ja Morant actually fit what they're trying to build, or is it just chasing a name? Now, for the Minnesota Timberwolves, it's a little bit different, right? I think for the Timberwolves, the yes is a lot clearer. The Minnesota Timberwolves need another ball handler. We've seen that for them in the playoffs. There's one thing that stood out, and they need a point guard. Anthony Edwards is absolutely elite, right? And with the Wolves being linked to Ja Morant now for the better part of an entire year, I feel like we were talking about it around this time last year. They do need somebody who can create offense when Anthony Edwards is off the floor and put pressure on the rim. Ja Morant fits that. He also fits next to Anthony Edwards, how Anthony Edwards has grown as a shooter, right? And so it would be very much fun, must-see basketball in regards to that. The speed, the athleticism, the getting out in transition, the star power, all that type of stuff. It would be there. If the Timberwolves believe that they've reached their ceiling with their current core, getting a player like Ja Morant in there to pair in the backcourt with Anthony Edwards could do great. But the only no side of this really comes down to the money, right? Is that matching Ja's salary will become very difficult for this team. And we look at, they already have major contract decisions to make on their roster with Donte DiVincenzo, who's going to miss the majority of the season. Reportedly, they're looking to move off of one of Julius Randle or Rudy Gobert, right? So they have that part to look at it. And it could put them right back in the same situation where they were when they moved off Karl Anthony Towns, right? Just too much money that they are. I do think there are some fit concerns, but I'm not really worried about the fit concerns too much. I'm worried about what the money would mean and how constrictive that could be for their roster building, especially considering where they are. The Timberwolves have spent years building an identity for this team. And now it comes down to, and you have to ask yourself, would Ja Morant unlock something with Anthony Edwards, or are you taking too much of a hit to what you've already built? That's only the question that the Minnesota Timberwolves can answer. But hearing that the Timberwolves and the Pelicans have some serious interest in Ja Morant, we'll just see how that goes, because, again, this is posturing season. A lot of things happen on with this point in the offseason because you're in a weird inflection point with the draft right around the corner, free agency shortly thereafter that. We'll see what the Bulls do. Next on, the Los Angeles Lakers reportedly have their target list. We heard a couple of days ago, we talked about how Luka Doncic was putting kind of pressure on the Los Angeles Lakers to complete the 2026 summer plan that they sold him on and pitched him on a while. So now we have heard from Jake Fisher that Lu Dort, Mitchell Robinson, and Robert Williams all remain players that they're interested in as well, saying this. The Los Angeles Lakers have interest this offseason in a number of big men, including Mitchell Robinson and Robert Williams III, as they hit free agency. The Lakers have also inquired with Oklahoma City Thunder about a trade for Lu Dort. The Thunder hold a $17.2 million player option on Dort for the 26-27 season. Thunder have luxury tax and apron concerns this coming season as the new contracts for Jalen Williams and Chet hit their cap sheet. So let's talk about this, right? Like, where and when do these players make sense for the Los Angeles Lakers? Lu Dort, he's the easy yes here. You need defenders around Luka Doncic that can guard multiple positions. He's a player that doesn't need the ball a lot on the offensive side of the ball. He's a defender there. And the Thunder, with their cap situation, you can be ready to go slide right in there and take on Lu Dort's contract and give them some space when it comes down to that one. And I love that. A tough perimeter defender that can guard the best perimeter player on the team and also guard in the paint. Lu Dort gives the Los Angeles Lakers the toughness that you need around a player like Luka Doncic, and he's one of the better point of attack defenders and wing defenders in the league, period. That's what Lu Dort is, right? And I'll say this, you have to ask yourself, why would Oklahoma City do this? For a team that's in their conference, in the Western Conference, and I do think that Lu Dort has some real value, and they can get more back from him that's just dumping him off to the salary, because I doubt the Los Angeles Lakers are really ready to give up major assets for Lu Dort, like a first-round pick unprotected. But hey, maybe they can. Lu Dort is the perfect role player for Lakers, period. He is that. And this is the kind of target that sounds so good around Luka, and then if you add Lu Dort to that and Austin Reaves, you got something cooking there, and I think we can see that. Now, Robert Williams and Mitchell Robinson. Now, these two players make different sense for the Bulls for different reasons. I mean, for the Lakers, again, I'm a Bulls fan, sorry. For the Lakers for different reasons. Mitchell Robinson would give them size, rebounding, rim protection, a vertical lob threat, all the things that you need around Luka Doncic. And with the New York Knicks owner, James Dolan, already coming out and saying they're not paying the second tax apron, it means that a player like Mitchell Robinson may not be coming back to that team, and it makes a lot of sense there, right? I do think there are concerns for Mitchell Robinson, durability being one of them. He's had tons of injury issues over the time. And so now investing major assets in a center who may not be available as consistent as what you need him to be, that's the question there. Now, the money, I think that'll work out. They can find the money. But then you look at the Robert Williams part of this. And then personally, I think Robert Williams has just as many red flags injury-wise. Now, we know what Robert Williams is when he's healthy. He is a defensive game changer. His shot blocking, his lob threat ability, the flashes that he's had passing-wise, when he's healthy, he's on. He's a guy that doesn't need touches. He can protect the rim. He can finish plays, and he brings energy. But the problem comes down to the same thing with Mitchell Robinson. It's health. That is the thing. Like, can you build your offseason around a player who can't consistently stay healthy enough to be on the floor? That's the thing there. If the goal here for the Los Angeles Lakers is to maximize the prime, you have to ask yourself, are either one of these guys the guys to do that, or could you make a pivot more so to somebody like a Mark Williams, who we'll talk about here in a second, could be on the outs with Phoenix? We got to see there, right? The Lakers should swing, I think, for the best healthy fit. And this would be gambles on defensive upside. And God forbid if they sign both these guys, right? So that's what you're looking at with the Los Angeles Lakers. But I want to hear from you guys on what you think the Lakers should do. Now, let's talk about the Phoenix Suns before we get out of here. The Suns gave Colin Gillespie a $48 million contract. And people are asking, is this a smart move or is it an overpay? I think that he earned this. I think that's, like, you can look at it, could end up being a bit of an overplay. This guy went from a two-way contract to a minimum deal to a real rotation player, and it's clear that Phoenix sees that he fits their identity and where they're going. He started 58 games last season. He fits next to Devin Booker. He brings toughness, and he can operate off the ball. And $12 million per year for that could bring more crazy reasonable value when it all comes down to it. And that's what you want, is you want the value out of the contract, and this contract could be very valuable. The overpay side of it comes down to this. This is a big commitment for a player that hasn't truly had a breakout season yet. And that's the thing when it comes down to. Now, of course, if this also has you miss out on being able to keep a player like Mark Williams around and fill out the rest of your roster because you decided to pay Gillespie, that's what you have to get into there. Now, if Colin settles into just being a solid role player but not a major difference maker, you may look back on this and say, yeah, this looked like a solid deal at the time, but it's a deal that now has become an overpay, and that can happen. It could be solid now, but then overpay later. And that's what you have to ask yourself. I say this before. I think that they got a bargain right now, and they bet on a player who has played well for them, that's performed well for them, and they had a really feel-good season where they were much better than people were giving them credit for, winning 45 games last year. And so because of that, like, yeah, people are going to benefit from that. And Colin is one of the guys who now is going to benefit from that, and that's perfectly fine. But you have to ask yourself now, what's the next step for him? This guy that averaged 12 points, 4.1 rebounds, 4.6 assists, 41% shooting from the field, and 40% shooting from three. So the chances of him working out and being a solid player for them are really, really high. But then you have to factor in the next part of this, because this could now make them have to miss out on bringing back Mark Williams. Now, if Mark Williams comes back on the qualifying offer, you're going to get a young, talented player, right? Which his qualifying offer is a little over $9 million. But if he's reportedly searching for more of the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, which is $15.1 million. And while we know Mark Williams has upside, if he's healthy, this is a guy that brings defense. He brings a lob threat. He brings all of that. But when you have guys like Kaman Malawak, you have guys like Oso Ighodaro on this roster, you have some depth there already that you can bet on, right? So are they going to be able to bring him back? They can, right? And those reasons could be the reasons why. But when you look at the no part of it, they already have a tight financial situation. And bringing back Mark Williams could push them into the tax and close to the first tax apron without a team that's a true contender. And that's where people are going to matter. And you can't overlook the injury history when it comes to Mark Williams either. This has been too big a part of his story so far. So I think Mark Williams is too talented to just let walk away. But I also think he may be too risky for them to keep at the money that he wants, which could lead you to actually have to go the sign and trade route. And that's what we'll see what's going to happen in regards to that one. But let me know you guys' thoughts on all the topics down below. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball and NBA related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
been a presentation of the Break Media.